Hello and welcome back to this tutorial. In our previous video, we explained some of the basic HTML tags, and that is the tag that made up this website. Okay, so we explained the header tag that is housing these two items. We talk about the H1 and the title tag here. We also talked about the unordered list, the list items, and that is why these items are here as a list. So we have a list of menus here. We also talked about the anchor tags, and that is what makes this text here clickable. We talked about the div tag that houses these two divisions that are here. Also, the H1 tag that made this text to be really big and dark, and also the paragraph tag, the footer tag, the aside tag. So we basically talked about the basic HTML tags, and if we try to view this tag from the browser, we can use this inspect, and this will give us all the tags that made up this website. Okay, so if I'm to expand this, you see that we basically have all the tags that we saw in our text editor, and we have the header tag, and when you hover this header, you see where the header is, this tag is covering. When you over this H1, you see the text that this H1 is housing, the P tag, and all of that. So this nav, we have the navigation, and inside the navigation, we have an unordered list. Then we now have the different list items. Okay, so if I open this list item, you see the text that is contained in that list item, and then you see the anchor tag that is also inside the list items. So with this, I believe you can figure out what a tag is doing when you go to a website, and you'll be able to, from the tags, get content from that website. All right, in this video, we are going to be talking about a framework that we use in passing HTML tags, and that is called Beautiful Soup. Okay, so inspecting this again, we assuming we are not the one that wrote this website, and we just see a random website on the internet, and we want to get this content from the website for whatever reason, maybe the description that we are seeing here, or the list items that we see here, or whatever information we want to get from that website. So we can get that using the request library that we have seen. But then you cannot just get the content of the website just like that. And then how do you now target that you want to get out this particular text, this place that they wrote home, or this text that is here? All right. So Beautiful Soup helps you to pass the HTML tags and extract the content of that HTML tag. Okay, we are going to start working with it locally with our local file, and then we are going to integrate the dynamic content into our work system. So let's hop back to our Visual Studio Code and continue with our web scraping. Okay, here in our Visual Studio Code, we have this HTML file, and now I have this bs.py file, and we are supposed to work with Beautiful Soup in this file. So the first thing that we are going to do in this file is to import the Beautiful Soup library. So we are going to write from bs4, then we are going to import Beautiful Soup. So, and as you can see, this Beautiful Soup is a class. So the first thing we are going to do is to create an instance of that class, and we are going to call it soup, and we are going to set it to the class of that Beautiful Soup. So, and here we are going to be passing in two items. So the first thing is the item that we are going to be extracting content from, and the second one is the type of parser that we are using. So before I do that, I'm going to just give some space here, and I'm going to open this HTML file inside this Python file. So we are going to use our file handling methods with open. So I'm going to pass in the file name. So, and the naming convention is not so beautiful, but I'm going to just pass that in, something.html. Then I'm going to open it in read mode, and I'm going to give this action a name. So I'm going to say as file, and I'm going to close this header. So I'm not going to read this file here. So, and I'm going to store the read file in a variable. So I'm going to call it html underscore doc, and I'm going to set it to the read file. All right. So we are going to call file.read. Okay, so if we print this HTML doc, we find out that what we are printing is the HTML, the content of this HTML document. So I'm going to just pass in HTML doc and print that. So if we run this code, we have all of the content of the HTML document. Okay, so I'm going to clear my terminal. So what is the function of this beautiful soup? Well, the function of this beautiful soup is that now I assume that I am inspecting a website on the browser and I can see all of this text, home, about, services, contact, and for some reason I just need this information so bad and I want to write them down on a document. So it will not be so convenient to just go and copy home and maybe create a document accordingly, copy home, paste, copy about, paste, copy that, paste. All right, so we use this beautiful soup after we get this code to extract all of this text, all of the data that we are seeing. All right, so now that we have created this instance, the first thing that we are going to be passing is the item that we want to extract from. So we are extracting from HTML document. Then the second thing that we are going to be creating is the parser, the type of parser that we are using. All right, so now there are three types. We have the HTML.parser, and that is the one that is built in Python. Then we have the XML and we have the LXML. Okay, so you can decide to use them, but if you want to use them, then you need to install them. So for the purpose of this video, we are going to be using the built-in HTML.parser, and we are going to just pass in here HTML.parser. All right, so the next thing that we're going to do is that we are going to start calling the different BS method, that is beautiful soup method, on this soup instance that we created, and we are going to use it to extract some of the items in this HTML document using their tags or the attributes. Okay, so I'm going to try to access this title tag. So how I'm going to do that is to print soup, then get the title, then get the text on that title. Okay, so this is going to print the text on that title for me. All right, so if I run this, okay, so we still have this print statement running. So I'm going to comment that out, and then I'm going to run this again. So we have this title here, my website. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is to try to access the text in this header. So I can do that by going for the header.text. All right, so if I print this, so you see all the text items in this header, both the H1 and the P tag, they have been printed. All right, so what if I want to print only the H1? So I can use another method, and I'm going to do find. I will now pass the header tag. Then I will now, in the header tag, I will now find the H1 tag. So I'll pass in H1, then I will now print the text in the H1. Okay, so if I print this, okay, so now you see this, my website for the H1. So I can decide to change this to the P tag, right? So if I print it again, we see the content of the P tag, all right? That is a simple HTML and CSS data template. Now that we have this nested tags, we have nav, then we have UL, and we have li. All right, so if I want to get all the anchor text, that is the text that are contained inside of this anchor tag, so the A is the anchor tag. All right, so how we are going to do that is just to nest it the way we did here. So we see we get the nav. All right, so we find the nav, and also inside the nav we find the li, but this time around we are going to use the find all because we have more than one li there. All right, so and here I'm going to pass in li. Okay, so what if you print this, you are going to get all the li's. So and we have a list of all of the li's, that is the tags themselves. Okay, we are not getting the text yet. So if we want to get the text, as you can see now, what we have here is a list. So we can loop over this list, and then we are going to just set this to a variable, and I'm going to say anchor text underscore text, and I'm going to set it to this action. So now I am now going to loop over the result of this action. So I'm going to say for x in anchor text. So I want to get the text. So I'm going to say that text is equals, I want to get the li and the anchor tag, then the text of the anchor tag. So I'm going to say x dot find. Okay, so and here I'm going to find the a tag, then I'm going to get the text of that a tag. So outside here I will now say dot text. Okay, so and then I'm going to print text. So if we run this, so I'll clear my terminal for the formal action, then I'll run this. As you can see, we have only one of the anchor text. So if we want to get all of that, what we are going to do is that we are going to, instead of using this find, we're going to use select, and here we are going to pass in nav and the anchor tag. So here we are passing it to nav, two tags. So and the next thing we are going to do is under this loop, we're going to print the objects that are contained in that action, and here we are going to print x dot get text, and here we could set strip to true. Okay, so if we run, if we're able to get all the anchor texts. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is that we're going to try to find the content of this container. All right, so and I am going to, for now, create another variable and call it main, and I'm going to use soup dot find main, and if you print main, we are going to see the items in the main tag. All right, so we could also use the select, and we are going to access all the items in the main. So this is the syntax to access that, and we now loop over it to get the individual items in there. So and we are going to write a for loop for item in main that we want to print all the items there. So that we want to print in a formatted string, and we pass in our items. All right, so we are going to first of all get the name of the item and also get the text on the item. All right, and we would like to add a colon so that we know the tag that we are working with and the text that is contained in that tag. So we are going to pass in items dot get text, and we could also strip the text. So I'm going to set this to true, and if we clear the terminal, we'll also comment all of this out, and we are going to print. So we can see all the tags and their texts. You see the H1, that is the H1 here, says my website, H2 welcome, H3 that, and we've been able to extract a few things from this. All right, so okay, I believe that with this you have an idea of how to use Beautiful Soup to get data from HTML tags. So we are going to be working with a real website in our next video. So thank you so much for watching this video. See you in the next one.